Welcome to Ossiana Talks to People. Today we have my homeboy for life, Walter Rhein, and we are talking. Speaking about sexy outfits, we are talking quite a bit about a bunch of things that have been happening in the Christian fundamentalist world. Now, this might take you by surprise, but I'm not really that big a fan of far right wing conservative Christian churches. Just a little bit.
Yeah.
So, um, where do we begin?
Oh man. Yeah, I think it all ties together. The structures that protect these abusers, and even now, I was talking with Jen Budd a couple times, and she was mentioned. Hey, she worked with the Border Patrol. She says, you know what we need? We need a DNA database, and we put all the rape kit evidence in these databases, and anybody who runs for office or wants to join law enforcement or wants to be a preacher, maybe they need to run it against the DNA database to see if they're a predator. This was Jen Budd's idea. And instantly when you talk about that, people are like, well, now, hey, now, they're like, can't do that. That'll be exploited. That'll clearly be turned to you. But they come at you and it's the same fundamentalist type deal where they're just like, sir, that sounds like a good idea, but you're being really naive because any possible good idea you have will just be turned to evil. So we just have to sit back and endure the torments of these men and never even try to fix it because anything you try to do will just make things worse. So you're really the bad one. And it's just like endless variations of that kind of bullshit brainwashing seem to define our reality.
So it's interesting that you mentioned like the DNA tests and the
Oh,
registries and stuff like that because we do have a national sex offender list and it is searchable. However, what's interesting about the United States is that a lot of those rape kits go untested,
yeah.
which means that there
Yeah.
are actually some people who are innocent on that list. And there have actually been people whose lives have been ruined because they were accused of rape and they didn't actually rape anybody. And then it later shows that the rapist was someone else. But what shocks me the most about this is that it's not even the fact that people get so scared about having DNA on a database before you can, be a police officer, a teacher. Actually, I
Yeah.
think teachers have higher
Finger.
standards than police officers do.
Yeah. I'm a teacher. All I had to do was give 'em my fingerprints, essentially.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
got fingerprinted back when I did insurance sales, which was weird.
Well, yeah, the standards for all these things, and then they just go lax when it comes to like the offices of the highest power. And it's just that structure is always designed to just enable the conservative abusers, is what it is, because that's who they always are.
While we're on that, let's actually talk about what brings us to this topic. For those of you not in the know, pardon me, I just had to touch up my lip gloss. There was a smash hit television show called 17 Kids and Counting, which featured a family of evangelical IBLP Christians called the Duggar family. And their eldest, I believe it was Josh
Mhm.
Duggar,
I think that's right.
um, was arrested after the entire show, you know, uh, came to a close, and they ended up having him, you know, he was arrested for not only child sexual exploitation and abuse material, but like it was the worst of the worst. Um, yeah, Josh Duggar, I do believe that he is in prison. Um, and I don't think that he's gonna come out anytime soon. I'm actually gonna double check just to make sure because fact
Yeah.
checking is important. I do remember doing like an entire piece on him, and his crimes were so extreme
Yeah.
that even other pedophiles were looking at him with a side eye. Yeah, he is currently in prison, I believe.
Yeah.
Um, just yeah. He is, yeah. He's sentenced to 12 years. He ain't coming out for
Okay.
a minute.
Okay.
So, for those of you not in the know, the actual thing that they found on his computer and what he got rated for was not just like child images. It was a video that later became world famous for its gruesomeness, where the child was assaulted until she died.
Mm.
So he was a sick puppy.
Only
He was
12 years? He only gets 12 years for that?
only 12 years. So when this happened, it completely destroyed the Duggar family brand because their entire brand was, hey, look at us. We love Jesus. We're so wholesome. And
Jesus.
it's a family of 20 kids. And you should raise your kids to be exactly like ours because look at how godly they are and how squeaky clean and how, like, shiny it is. So years pass. We think, okay, you know what? It's one child out of
Mm.
the 20 or so that they have that the public opinion is kind of like, all right, so maybe it was just a one off. Boom.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like Ellico mentions the oldest molested his own sisters, and that is true. The sisters actually did come forward, and I believe that one of them even wrote a book describing like what it was like to grow up in the Duggar family, which oof.
Yeah.
And as Yanni pointed out, meanwhile, if it's your third strike, you'll be sent to prison for life for a little bag of weed.
Yeah.
Oh man, nobody give me a piss test. I'm just gonna warn you, it'll just set itself on fire and hang itself. Um
We
so
gotta make it through, whatever you gotta do to make it through right now. Oh my god, I totally yeah.
so
Yeah.
now this other dude got arrested and um obviously once is bad, but now it's two and it's a pattern.
Yeah.
Um Walter,
Yeah.
what have you personally noticed and seen about this particular case that caught your eye?
Oh, well, that family is not something I paid much attention to, but it's just I a while ago, I was on a talk with Natasha Kay, and I was just saying, "Hey, if you are taking your family to a church, the first thing you should ask about that church is, what have you done up to stop or to ensure there is no, child abuse in your church?" And when you ask a question like that, you get this kind of tingle, like I'm saying something inappropriate, you know? But it's like you look at the arrest statistics. Even today, when I was talking with Ellie Leonard and Arturo Dominguez, he's just like, these are the statistics. The majority of the abusers are in the faith community. We know this. And
Mhm.
again, everything in conservative reality is to deny the facts, that disprove their superiority narrative that they constantly lord over us. And somehow they're able to just transform every scenario where we try to have reasonable conversations. They're just like, are you really going to go there? And they managed to turn it so we feel guilty. And it's just like that goes all the way back to childhood. And that's what enables all this, right? Because
Mhm.
we, from an earliest age, we have to be just blindly obedient to these patriarchal authority figures, no matter what they do to us. And we see it on display again and again. They constantly reinforce it. There was just the Supreme Court case, 8-1 decision where they're allowing conversion. They overruled this conversion therapy law. And it's just like, that's child abuse. You're not,
Yeah,
and it was on the grounds of freedom of speech. It's like, you don't have freedom of speech to abuse a child. What the hell's wrong with you?
exactly. No, like, one of the things that's become abundantly clear is that while it's usually the preachers warning people about predators and stranger danger, um, there's a reason why on Reddit there is an entire subreddit of not a drag queen, and it's literally priest
Yeah.
after priest after priest after priest after priest. In fact, like, the funny thing is that I found out earlier on, the Catholic Church actively sought out people with sex offense charges and child molestation charges to recruit them to become priests in the Catholic Church.
What year are you thinking is it?
Let me actually look it up, cause I can actually here, I'll screen share because I got a bunch of,
Oh
sources
gosh.
today too.
I'm afraid to do the screen share. I was saying, I'm like, I'd inadvertently share all my bank information and
Yeah.
and be like, oh no, I just ruined myself. Yeah. So
So, I remember hearing about this, um
Well, there's
Yeah.
various iterations of the scandal is why I asked that, because you go back to, like, the bathing or the what was it? The laundry houses that they used to have and hundreds of years ago. Oh, are we still there? Okay. My screen went blank.
So, just pulling up this, is insane. I just searched up Catholic Church recruiting pedos,
Oh,
and
God.
we got Pope Francis says about 8,000 pedophiles are members of the Catholic clergy, including bishops and
These are the known ones,
cardinals.
huh?
These
Like
are the
the
known ones.
fuck.
Almost 1,700 priests and clergy accused of sex abuse. Five failed to register in their new communities as sex offenders. And let's see, Catholic, they got them from the Catholic confessional recruiting ground. Like, so if you go in and you're like, "Bless me, Father, I've sinned. I touched a kid in an inappropriate manner," the priest might actually be like, "Hmm, let me offer you a
Yeah.
job."
Well, that's the whole concept of the confessional is, like, titillating. I mean, there's plenty of movies that kinda parody that, like, the priest asking leading questions, like oh, and I noticed Kate Justice just showed up in the chat, and Kate
Hey,
just wrote this fantastic article. I should go find I can't find the name of the article. It's just absolutely fantastic. Go check her profile on, Bill Barr.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So I'm so excited to see you here. By the way, um, hi everyone. So I am so excited to see everyone. But like this is this is literally how they recruited people. They waited until you were in the confessional or you had a charge
Yeah. Yeah.
to reach out to you, which is in my mind insane.
Yeah. And talk I mean, this is okay because this when you propose something like this DNA database like we were talking about, they instantly say, "Well, that's gonna be leveraged to the bad," but then you already have that existing with, like, leverage like, the confessional having a place to go and get stuff off your chest and, have therapy before we have the scientific process, that is a good idea. But if it is being perverted so that the church can have leverage over everybody in the community and recruit the very worst to be a part of their organization, that is the perversion, and I keep saying to everybody, just all we have to do is look at what our abusers are saying and doing because they reveal not only all their crimes, but also the mechanism for dismantling them. Like the stuff they push hardest against that they shame us into not talking about anymore. They're doing that because they know that way lies their destruction. They want to keep us incarcerated, so that we are unable to challenge the walls and push back out and find and inherit the world we deserve is what I, I always like to say.
Exactly. So I'm actually like looking through this Catholic confessional recruiting ground article, and one person, the writer says, "I remember wondering why priests just disappeared from the church or school. Here one day, gone the next. We were always told that they had been called back unexpectedly to Ireland. Now I know that the church was feeling heat and they were reassigned." So the
Yeah,
Catholic Church alone actually protected pedophiles by reassigning them the moment that people were going to start getting law enforcement involved.
yeah,
Now, with the fundamentalist church in the United States, obviously it's a lot more intricate and it's a lot more, as scary as this is for me to say. I'm going to use this word because I think it's appropriate. It's a lot more cult-like. A
yeah,
lot of these places are cults. The
yeah,
IBLP, which is the church that the Duggar family is from, is a known cult. And the thing is that cults are high control environments. Those priests, they act as basically the voice of God for these people. They're not going to disobey them, which means that with that kind of power and that amount of like sexual repression, because
yeah.
all these fundies, they have sexual repression because otherwise, how are they supposed to feel more superior to people like me?
Well, yeah. Well, their power is all leveraged. Like at a very young age, they learn to weaponize natural feelings of sexual curiosity, and then they use the most powerful feelings of guilt and shame. And I didn't grow up in a cult, but I had this patriarchal father, and it was just you could just tell. you don't have that healthy development. You don't have anybody to guide you through those. It's completely normal when you go through puberty, you're confused, you have sexual confusion, all these things are normal. And if
Yeah,
somebody who is your person who talks to you, your mentor, and all they do is leverage your confusion and make you feel shame, they deliberately do that to circumcise your humanity, I guess, is what I could say. They want it so you're unable or incapable of creating strong relationships so that you are trapped in this trauma bond with them. And this is the entirety of the conservative mentality. But this is the structure that is why, we have sexual predators. They get all the doors opened all the way to the White House. And that's also why institutions like the Catholic Church refuse to put women in positions of leadership because women don't put up with that shit. And it's just like that's why the suppression of women is critical to all of these movements. And it's like, and people will start saying, well, they'll start pointing out all the people that have been appointed by this regime, which is picking the worst of the worst. They're picking the ones that have been indoctrinated. But it's like, yeah, once you open it up and you make it a fair system and we have reasonable, but it is like the rot has just been exposed, whether it's in the church, whether it's in our nation, whether it's regard to the Epstein files, whether it's regard to what Border Patrol lets people get away with. All these things are connected.
exactly. Now, like, we kind of wanted to like focus this entire topic about the systems that protect pedophiles in the church. And hi, Polly Post. Hi, everyone who just joined.
Yeah, wonderful.
So Bill Gothard, the founder of IBLP, Eloco mentions has too many allegations, and I believe it was I forget which particular documentary it was, but it was one about the rise of like fundies and tradwives and everything like that, where they actually mentioned Bill Gothard and how the IBLP has started to shape mainstream America. And I want to point out something that nobody really seems to be talking about. Um, Walter, you are a straight heterosexual man, right?
Yep.
Would you ever join a religion that had no women available in it?
Yeah. That's oh, no, I would not. But that is an interesting question. But continue with your point. I might have some ideas after you're done.
So, if you take a look at almost every major Christian fundie group, and IBLP is very, very notorious for this because, like, not only do they really get like their claws deep into kids when they're like just about to turn 18, they utilize things like shunning, which means that the kids gets put in line. They also say that if you tempted one of these predators, you're at fault because you
Mhm.
caused their eyes to stray. Even though Jesus himself said that if you can't control yourself, you should pull out your own eyes so that your wandering eye doesn't, fuck off somewhere or something like that. Okay,
Yeah.
maybe that's not exactly how he said it, but you get my point.
Yes.
Like, what they're doing is the whole point of all of these systems, it's a power play by the men up top. And it's a very, very subtle power play because I can tell you one thing for certain. For every true believer who is a man in that church, there's another guy who's just in there because he knows that he'll be assigned a wife.
Hmm. Hmm.
Keeping those women in line is quite literally the way that they keep men in the church.
Yeah.
If they have a sausage fest, that church is going to evaporate. It is in their best interest to control the sexuality of the women, to encourage women to date only within their church,
Yeah.
and to actively almost like advertise how pure their women are and how fertile they are, which is one of the
Yeah.
other things. The whole thing about, like, removing birth control, that's because they're gonna need to keep those numbers up. Cults have a tendency of dying out because of a lack of reproduction. That's why they're so against birth control,
Hmm.
and nobody talks about that system.
Well, yeah, and it's a shadow. It's a shadow organization, for that reason. I mean, that's how they get there. And I mean, things like the KKK, they deliberately try to pretend they don't exist anymore. The mafia pretends it doesn't exist, and I mean, a lot of their power is being hidden. That's why people get all upset when you talk about white on white violence, and it's just like, we can't even talk about that exists and all these crimes. But they control all the messaging too, and that's the other thing that's
Mhm.
really upsetting. The media is all propaganda. Every part of our government is all that. They have their churches in town, and so they just get a and Polly said, "What is this particular church?" Actually, the cult one you were talking about?
The IBLP one, this is, the church that the Duggars are associated with.
Oh,
I just, pulled it up. Can you guys see my screen?
no, I
Oh, well,
can't. Maybe the rest of the world can.
that explains,
Don't base my
okay.
don't base it on me. I'm always I'm out of the loop.
Alright. So we're just gonna share the screen here. Okay. So now you can see it, right?
Yep,
Okay.
I see it. Awesome. Works perfect.
Alright. So this is founder Bill Gothard from the 1960s. It's the Institute of Basic Life Principles Church. It's independent, it's conservative, it's controversial as all hell, and they basically are a massive cult. And
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you, the more I read about this particular church, the more I realize that it sounds scarily, and I mean really scarily, like a sex trafficking ring.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
this is interesting because the Duggars are part of this. They promote large families, which I explained why the large families are such a big important thing. A strong opposition to divorce because that way the women are under
Yeah.
control. And homeschooling.
Yeah.
Hmm, interesting. So, Walter, what's your thoughts on the whole homeschooling thing?
Okay, you gave me thoughts again, and I've often been talking, or I've been doing a lot of articles lately about it's like because I grew up in the conservative area, the constant pressure, and one of the things I was saying is you only learn about compassion because of the negative space where it was removed from your current worldview, right? And the term I've been using lately is the ingenuity of the corrupt. Like regular people are trying to get through life. Corrupt people, like somebody who's just committed a crime, all of a sudden they got all this energy to cover it up, right? And so it's not just, like digging a hole and burying a body. It's keeping the police not just from going to that city where the body is, but not going to that state. Like they keep pulling everything back and the evidence of their corruption, they push us farther and farther and farther away from it. And so the result of that is like if you could see it from their point of view, you'd see a different reality. But all we see is pressure to kind of maintain and stay within these certain parameters, right? And we
Mhm,
see that entirely on the internet. There's this narrow little network of how we're allowed to talk about things. And that's what leads to people saying things like, "Oh, we're not ready for a black woman." They regurgitate the programming that comes from this pressure, this area of pressure. And I run into this a lot as a writer because I'm always kind of trying to challenge these narratives. It's like it doesn't make sense that we said that, you know? But then you get the resistance, and you get the resistance both from
what?
people who have been indoctrinated. Oh no, cat attack, spontaneous cat attack. You get indoctrination both, or you get attacks both from people who have been indoctrinated, who sincerely think they're just saying something that is how the rational world is, not knowing that they've been living in this world of false parameters imposed upon them by an abuser, right?
Mhm,
Abusers always require people not know they're being abused. There's that one step to that. We always make this assumption people know they're abused, and it's
they
sort of
don't.
like they don't. They might think I'm living in the greatest country in the world. I am free. Place people in other countries would sure love to live in this country. All that is the language of abuse. And I discovered, getting back to the education and homeschooling, I mean, there are places where going to public school, I've always taken my education upon myself, and I just always carry around these books. And it scares authoritarian systems. That's why they're book burners, that's why they censor books. It
Mhm,
scares them even to see you as a 9 or 10-year-old kid carrying a book around because they know that book has a message of love and compassion and everything and all the rights that you should have as a person that they're trying to prevent you from knowing you deserve. And so
correct.
yeah, I mean, I think there are cases. I mean, there were times. I mean, I got my teaching certificate in case I needed to homeschool my kids. So I think it can be used. It's like all things. We have this temptation of thinking evil is over here and good is over here, and they're directly. And it's really evil is a shadowy reflection of good. Good ideas
Yeah,
can be perverted to become evil. I think homeschooling could be good, but when we are deliberately underfunding public education and giving the money to homeschools or through voucher programs to segregated Christian schools, then it becomes a problem. But yeah, they're afraid of education. They're afraid of us explaining these ideas.
And it's interesting that you mentioned that because I remember a while back I was reading an article about a woman who was at a battered woman's shelter, and she was a fundie, and she just did not want to go home. And
Yeah.
the fundamental the fundie lady, I don't remember her name, but she she was with a guy who on paper was the perfect Christian husband.
Oh boy.
He was Yeah, he had his headship. He never used birth control. He left all of the women's work up to the women, which is as God intended, which means that he didn't cook, clean, raise a finger. She had 7 kids. 7!
Mhm.
No help. But she also had to take care of him. And she couldn't have a job. She couldn't do any of this, that, or the other.
Yeah.
And he made all of her life decisions for her. All of them.
Mhm.
And it's just insane to think about,
Yeah.
like, she was basically a slave.
Yeah.
Like, and the thing is that she was, like, so overworked, she was so torn down, and
Yeah.
she could not bring herself to say that she was being abused. The lady at the shelter actually had to say, "Listen, if you cannot say this, we have to send you back out there."
Oh gosh.
And eventually she admitted it, and she got help. But it is so deeply ingrained
Yeah.
in abuse victims' minds that they don't even realize, like, how bad it is. It's that whole, like, boiled frog
Yep.
thing.
Yep. Yep.
And I don't know about you, but it's a lot easier for people, or at least for me, to realize when I'm being subjected to something that isn't right, when I have other people warning me about the warning signs.
Yeah, that's critical. And I've come to that conclusion a lot too, where we get stuck in this world that we hate and you just kinda suck it up and survive. But it was the books, because the books I read detailed romances, and I wasn't thinking of myself as, like, reading romances. I was reading, like, fantasy books, but it was always, like, the romantic element. It's like, "Oh, they," and I was drawn to that, and I was drawn to the friendships, and it's like, you're thinking about those things, and it's but you're maintaining your routine anyway. But the second you actually do fall in love, and it can be a really toxic relationship, but the second you actually have a real loving relationship, you instantly then get the strength to just reject this abuse routine that you've been conditioned to think is the only reality. And that's that powerful thing when you fall in love with somebody and you're just like, I will give up the rest of my life for just one more hour with this person. You got a lot of that shakes free a lot of this cult conditioning, a ton of it. And
Mhm.
that's been the reoccurring thing I've seen in literature. And that's why they want to burn all the books. They don't want people to know that's possible. Yeah.
And it's interesting that you bring that up. So, you've grown up in a conservative Christian background.
Mhm, mhm.
Um,
My family wasn't, but the whole community was. Yeah.
gotcha.
That
Where are
saved
you
me.
from?
Northern Wisconsin. I grew up in a house my parents built. They built a log cabin, we lived in it. That's I don't think you'll meet too many people like that, but yeah, they just stacked the logs up, and that's where we live.
I keep forgetting that houses can be made out of logs. If you can't tell, I'm from a city area.
Oh, straight up log cabin, just like Laura Ingalls Wilder, you know? Yeah.
Just quick saying hello to everyone here,
I love
Natasha,
everybody.
Polly,
Natasha's great.
Adam.
Yeah.
So happy to see you guys. LC silence is complicity. Yes, it is. So,
Yeah.
like, when like I know that I grew up in a hyper conservative small town. Um, have you noticed when you were growing up, when people wanted to shame people or keep them silent, they would always end up foisting the blame, even if they
Oh,
were not actually the ones doing anything
yeah.
wrong.
They had to scapegoat a group, and you could always kinda tell because these farmers, they'll get together in little groups of, like the leaders. They'll be off in the corner, and they'll make their decision, and that was a terror because you didn't wanna be ostracized, like because kids would just be savagely just beaten, you know? And, I had to learn to fight back eventually too because it was always the same thing. you're getting beat up, you say, "I don't want him to beat him anymore." Well, he wouldn't just hit you for nothing. Obviously, you
Yeah.
did something wrong. And so I'm just like, and they're like, "Don't you dare fight ba." Well, I learned I got really good at kicking boys in the groin. I got really so I would just drop them, in the groin, they'd go down. And it was just like, I don't care if I get in you get to that point where you're just like, I don't care if I'm gonna be punished for this. I just don't wanna I think I'm gonna die. So I'm gonna fight back. And I think a lot of people don't have that moment where they just succumb and they submit to the constant torture, and they think there's no way out. I mean, that's what I keep saying, it's not enough to escape these obstacles. You have to knock the obstacles down after you're by them. That's what we all have to start doing.
So, I was in a really weird situation growing up as a kid because, for those of you who know me, y'all already know I work in adult films. I am an adult film star. I just recently did my first softcore scene ever with a actual official, porn house, but, um, even when I was younger, I was known for being promiscuous at an extremely young age, which obviously there's a reason for that. Um, but the interesting thing was that I never saw anybody go after the people who did that to me to
Yeah,
begin with. It was always, "Well, why didn't you keep your legs closed?" Or, like, they would ask me at, like, 11 years
yeah,
old, "What were you wearing?" Or, "You could have just said no." Actually, you can't really say no to somebody who's, like, twice your size. Just
yeah,
just ask any, straight guy in prison.
yeah.
Yeah. Like, it's it's a vibe. So, Elsie says, I met your peeps at a restaurant." Uh, wait, which peeps? I have a lot of peeps. Like, are we talking marshmallow peeps or, like, and Jeanette Schwartz-Rutten says, "How does an 11-year-old have
Yeah.
trouble keeping their legs closed?" Well, when that's the only way that you're getting attention from anyone, yeah.
Well, I mean, but all of this is the same argument that, deny reality because they wanna believe this narrative of the patriarch. And it's like, at some point, you're told again and again, "You should be grateful for this person," and this person controls they prevent you from having a life, and everything they do is abusing you, and they always just pile it on you, how all the problems are your fault. I mean, it fits into prosperity gospel, where we take away people's humanity by the face that they're struggling. Just just like the layers and layers upon abuse,
Yeah.
conditioning that is the United States. And this is why we live in a country where we allow white supremacists to go into schools and murder all the kids. That's every single school shooting is a white supremacy act of terrorism, is what I've come to say. This is why we live in a society that allows terrorism against women in the form of stripping them of bodily autonomy. It's like there's such a level of the voter base that has been indoctrinated with this, uh, always blaming the survivors of these heinous acts, and never, ever, even once, if you dare to question the authority structure that creates this, somehow you're the one who feels shame and guilt because they leverage that from such an early age.
Exactly. Like, with me, like, I learned that for me, the most healing thing that I've ever done was actively pursue adult content as a career and as a hobby. Like, that was my way of taking my power back. Because everybody was always when you're in this kind of environment and when you're in this kind of system as a woman, particularly a woman who was whatchamacallit, early developed, let's just put it that way, or a child who's early developed, or somebody who looks a certain way. They have this way of encouraging you to make yourself look smaller and smaller and
Mm,
smaller and smaller. And eventually you start feeling like you need to disappear because the more that they pick at you and the more that you submit, the worse they treat you. And it, like, I call it break the cutie. They're trying to break you. And women like women who end up like in these cults, who end up raised in these cults, they're quite literally programmed to be broken. And the worst part is that it's not just the men doing it. Because if it was just the men doing it, they could have very easily, how shall I say it, had a bunch of women go, you know what? Screw you guys. I'm out. It's also the women, the older women who gaslight them and go, "Listen, this is because this is what God wants for you.
Hmm.
This is what you deserve."
Yeah.
And that brings me to the headline that really shocked me about this case. Because, yes, as Ellico says, boys will be boys.
That's another one, yeah.
Um,
I appreciate all the supportive comments
yeah,
everybody's making for each other too in the chat.
yes.
That's wonderful. You guys are the best. I really do appreciate that.
Natasha, you do not look your age. Whatever skincare routine you're doing, please just let me know because you're gorgeous. Um, but yes, there's a lot of things. If decarceration says if you have to tell people you're the king, you ain't the king.
Ooh,
And Jen Champion says, blame the child. It's so wrong. The oppression and the
yeah.
control. But here's the headline that I saw that made me raise an eyebrow. So what makes this case particularly unusual is that in the case with Josh Duggar, the wife was not arrested.
Mm.
Here, Kendra Duggar was also arrested.
Okay.
And I'm going to share my screen for this. There we go. Alley-oop. All right. So here's the one that got my eyebrows raised. She tells her husband Joseph she hired a lawyer for child. Can you guys see it?
Nope, I can't.
Okay. All right. Give me 1 second. Um. There we go. Um. Okay. Let's see.
Well, you could just read it though too, actually, if we can
Okay.
get to work.
Okay. From People Magazine, Kendra Duggar tells her husband Joseph that she hired a lawyer for child welfare case on jail call. But she says, "It's not for you, it is only for me."
Hmm.
She got arrested too because of child endangerment. The child in this particular case is extremely young. Like so young that oh, there we go. So young that she is still a minor even though the act itself happened about 5 years ago.
Oh God, yeah.
Like, I'm so sorry to feel like a buzzkill, but, like, I'm just explaining the whole thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, she was taken into custody and charged with 4 misdemeanor counts of false imprisonment, as well as 4 misdemeanor counts of endangering the welfare of the child. So, riddle me this, like, why is she being charged with false imprisonment?
Of who is? Yeah, I guess I don't even in charge with 4 misdemeanor counts of false imprisonment of yeah, I guess I don't have enough legal background to understand that. My concern is, as I was sitting here thinking about this, is you see whenever the Republican administration gets in, they get as many judges in as possible. And so,
Mhm.
throughout the country, if you try to get some justice, it's only a 50-50 chance you'll get a judge there's even a hope of it being reasonable. But some of their interpretations, some of their justifications they make for their decisions make absolutely no. Yeah, is that what it was? She was locking the kids in. She was falsely imprisoning the kids? Is what the answer is there?
Yes, that means that she's falsely imprisoning children, which means that she locked those kids in with that monster, knowing what kind of what kind of dude he was. I want to point that out.
Yeah.
Like, think about that. I brought up the whole women being abusers in this system too. They're the ones who, and I'm sorry, I very rarely, but
Yeah.
Blitzo.
The cat again. Cat attack.
Blitzo, mommy is trying to do a
I think
podcast.
the cat realized we needed just a little bit of a break there, so that was, like, welcome. But yeah, continue.
Yeah, but like when I say that it's like, um, when I say that it's usually men who do the abusing, this is correct. But in the fundy world, and I love how incarceration's just like, Blitzo, we sense your concern.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
In the Fundy world, these abusers are the most heavily protected by the women around them.
Yeah. That's a big topic there, and it's something I struggle with a lot. Because I mean, when I was growing up and it was like the only reality that you had was this, like, cruel reality, and it made me sick. I
Yeah.
had asthma, I couldn't breathe, I couldn't eat. I was so thin, I had to wear suspenders instead of belts because belts would just come off my and I couldn't eat at school, and, it's just I think there's this part of you that's rejecting your reality.
Yeah.
You got that sense, but it's just sort of like, what do? You have to survive, and I mean, there's a lot of things in my life, and it's like, I wish I could have been better for a lot of people that were around, and you have to tell you, it's like, I did the best I could, I had to emerge out of that, I was a child, and you do carry that with you, because even when you're not actively, because you just don't even know, like,
Yeah.
I was never coerced into, like, holding a door closed, nothing like that, but just, I can kinda sense it's like people get so spun around, they think there's no other reality, and yeah, I mean, just they too are victims of abuse. Abusers abuse, and it just continues.
I mean, the women are victims, but
Yeah, there's
like
that line. Yeah. At one point, you become responsible, but yeah, but at least you understand it.
that's the thing. I'm sorry, but like as much as they are victims, and I'm seeing this as somebody who experienced this stuff. Like if it was somebody who was not experienced in it saying it, then I guess it wouldn't count. It wouldn't have as much clout, if you know what I mean.
Yeah,
But like I've been trafficked. I've seen the worst of people. I've been in that cult mentality.
yeah,
And what angers me the most about these women is that by now they should know better.
yeah.
By
It's
now, there have been a million freaking headlines that have shown 1. Sex is not criminal. It is a human act. Love is not criminal. It is a human act. Being born with boobs and a vagina literally statistically does not mean that you have
yeah,
no brain. You are a woman and you should be protecting other women and you should be protecting children. A loving God would never force you to
yeah,
subject yourself to that kind of self hate. And if you've been there and if you've been a part of that system, and I'm speaking to everyone here, one, if you're here and you're speaking out about it and you're reporting on it, you're doing the best damn thing that you can do. Did it happen when you were a kid? Were you part of that when you were a kid? That's okay. Learn to forgive yourself. What matters now is now.
mhm, mhm. It is, and I mean, but it's one of the other things, though, and I always emphasize this, we live in this whole nation of abuse, and there's so many things people contribute. It's the same thing where I would people that used to be my family, they are no longer my family because they voted for I told them, "The Republicans are targeting my immigrant family. If you vote for these Republicans, you're out." And they will still convince themselves, and those are the kind of acts of enabling abuse that are so commonplace. It's the same thing as this. That's just further down the road. But
Mhm,
that is institutional in the United States. It's why we don't have universal health care, all these different things. That's why we submit to economic terrorism. Well, they spend billions of dollars a day blowing up schools. And it's like I've been stunned like when they murdered all those people in Venezuela. I was sick to my stomach. You didn't see anybody hardly in the news complaining, you know, offering offering any remorse for all the lives that were lost. We hardly hear people talk about the girls that were killed in the double tap in the school in Iran.
mhm.
Um,
I
Melissa
actually cried
Hortman.
over that.
Yeah, I mean, it makes you just sick that Liam Ramos when they'd held Liam Ramos, I went out, I was just getting in people's faces saying, "Justice for Liam Ramos," and people were just, like, looking at me like, "What's wrong with you?" And I'm like, "What's wrong with you? How can you just sit there and be fine?" When we live in this whole society that just enables these just cruel, cruel acts to happen again and again, and we fund them. Our taxpayer dollars fund them. And yeah,
Yeah,
but I mean, I think what we have to be aware is there are these extreme examples. How many millions of people are in these cults like you're talking about here? And but then it is tens of millions that are willing to turn a blind eye to all these other blatantly obvious acts of abuse, walking past, somebody in the street who clearly needs your help. It's
Yeah,
all of that is related. So we need a fundamental change of course.
yeah. But one of the things that I started to notice, because like I know that right now a lot of my viewers are struggling with this because um Christian abuse is so rife throughout our nation. Like speaking as somebody
Yeah.
who experienced it, who has seen the devastation it's done on small town communities, um I want you guys to understand something. If you are hurt by people who are like the Duggars or who are like the
Yeah.
people who control the Duggars, it is not your fault. You deserve love, respect, acceptance, and community. Every day, you just got to go a little bit further in. You got to just build yourself up a little bit more. You have to find those like minded people.
Mm.
I'm not going to say that you need to give up on Christianity because that is not in my place. I myself am a practicing Kemetic pagan, and I also work with Lord Asmodeus. I am open about that. That is my path, that it does not have to be your path. If you prefer to, be a Christian who likes Jesus and likes his teachings and actually follows it, you better believe I'm going to be sitting there cheering you on because we believe the same type of thing.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things where we're seeing so many people realize that they've been in an abusive relationship with
Yeah.
with their religion, and it's causing mega churches to die out. It's
Yes.
causing people to leave the church. So there is a light at the end of this horizon.
Yeah. Yeah. Are you still gonna be on your screen sharing, or are you gonna bring
Oh,
yourself up to full
yeah,
full size?
let me stop sharing. There we
Yeah.
go.
What you're talking about has been on my mind a lot too, and because throughout the time I was growing up, I always knew like this patriarchal situation because I was born like the year after women were able to get credit cards in their own name, so it's just sort of like okay, that was established, and I worked all my childhood trying to like coerce my father to not just be so cruel, and so then when people come to me and they're like, because these days I guess I've been focusing mainly on the men though, and there's a certain I haven't thought as much about the women stuck in those positions. Maybe it is a better tactic to do that because we kind of think about how do we break these cults, like cult breaking? How do we do it? And providing companionship and getting the women out of those situations. I do a lot of work in empowering women, so maybe I've just inadvertently been doing it without realizing it. But go ahead.
Honestly, Walter, like you're the type of dude who a lot of women will probably end up running to when they're ready to quit the church. I actually the guy who I've been seeing, I'm just gonna drop a little hint.
Nice. I'm
I'm
happy.
currently in a relationship with somebody on Substack. Um, I actually got close to him because I told him a little bit about the crisis of faith I was having, my feelings about all this because all this new stuff was messing with my head too. And he did like the number one thing that I've ever seen a guy do, and it was that he validated me and he said, "Listen, man, no matter what path you are, as long as you're a good person, I think that matters more." And sorry, I just like really love him and I can't stop
Oh, I'm
talking
happy.
about
I'm
him.
happy you're happy. I just we needed
Um,
it. Everybody's happy in the chat too, so keep going.
yeah,
Be happy. We need our happiness moments. Don't stop that. Stay in the happiness moment as long as possible. With everything that's going on right now, just be happy for 2 seconds.
but
Yeah.
like guys who guys who are that supportive and then guys who are that loving and open-minded and who, are ready to treat women as equals and show women that they are allies through and through. That right now is worth more than your weight in gold. Like it's your weight in platinum. Your weight in like I don't know how expensive uranium is, but like a super healthy version of uranium that does not kill people. That much worth. All the worth.
Perfect. I know exactly what you mean.
But The thing is that I want people to realize that, like, the system, even though women end up bearing the brunt of a lot of the abuse, guys, you're also freaking hurting from this stuff.
Yeah, that's
And
true.
it's a good thing that people are leaving these churches, because you're taking away, with every person who drops out of these corrupt, malfeasant churches, you're taking away the tithing money. You're
Yeah,
taking away the eyes. You're taking away their influence. And not only that, but you are opening a door. You're being a port for another ship to sail into
yeah.
during the storm.
It I mean, I got out of that kinda thing because they tried to groom you into that. My innate curiosity was a big part of it. I had a couple kind of resources, people that cared about me. I was able to read, but I just like you point out contradictions, but I was the only one, like, in my class of the people I grew up with, and so many people, they just go along with things, and I've thought about it a lot. There was a couple moments, I mean, I left the country, and this has been a long process, and it's like, I look back, I wish I'd have been a better, I mean, I felt I did pretty decent, but I would could have been a better partner early in my marriage, and all that. It's ongoing, but a lot of it was, having our children, and then, like, you look at your children and these people that believe in idea like original sin, and, like, look at your child's face. There's nothing there but love, and if you're convincing yourself that unless you are cruel to this baby, they will have a hard reality, it's like, no, and it's like teaching myself, it's like, I recognize the only evil this baby is going to learn is what I teach the baby, and it's just sort of like, "Okay, time to even double down again." But it just keeps getting better and better, and the people do. I mean, it's a low bar, that's the other thing. If you wanna be like a decent guy, it you don't have to try very hard and people be like, "Oh my god, there's somebody finally," and it's just like, that should encourage people, but it shouldn't be that hard to break people away. That is an aspect. I think women all patriarchal systems, they target women because they know that women are the key to unraveling those cult systems. And it's the healthy relationships because those cult systems don't allow you to have, the line I always said, my dad said, I'm like, "Can we get a dog?" And he says, "If you get a dog, the dog just dies and you feel bad." Like, that's his
What?
summary of having a pet. Well, I mean, think of it. I mean, but they're
Or
so fragile. They're so fragile. They're so afraid of any kind of pain. They're willing to just not have any kind of love for anything that they can't completely control. So that encapsulates it very well where but they're lonely, and that's another thing. In those early ages, I was so lonely. Yeah,
yeah, I'm seeing a lot of people saying that they feel very isolated, that they feel betrayed by the male gender, and a lot of other things. I want you guys to know that if anybody ever, like, just needs an ear, I'm here. I'm
yeah,
sure that a lot of other people in the chat, okay, Blitzo apparently wanted to ham up a little bit, sorry. Um, but everybody has their own path, and, it's one of those things where this is part of being in an abusive relationship. Leaving an abusive relationship is usually when you feel the loneliest, and I speak as somebody who has left abusive relationships before, and who also, you know, has had to do introspection afterwards. Because, like, one of the weird things about abusive relationships is that the abused can become an abuser too, and that's what happened in one of the relationships I was in. I realized, "Oh my god, I'm turning into a monster." I actually had to check myself in. I ended up going to therapy, I have workbooks, I learned a lot about myself, I had to
yeah,
confront a lot of stuff,
yeah.
but and yeah, it's easier said than done, but once you get to a point of leaving, Natasha's right, it's 10,000 times better on the other
Yep,
side. At this point, the best thing that we can do for people who are leaving the church is to just be there and be their homie. Like, you don't have to,
yeah,
date them, but just be there.
yeah. Build them up, say nice things, share some artwork with them and say that art looks great. And it's like, that's the other thing, because I remember just it was just constant criticism until I was maybe, like, 25. I thought I was, like, hideous, like, something that couldn't be it was just like and like you were saying before about that invisibility thing, you do feel that. I did try to hide and just kinda make yourself invisible. I couldn't speak. I remember I used to drop like, when I first tried to go to college, I had to drop out. The first time I was in a class where they said I had to give a speech, I dropped out of that. I couldn't I was like, "There's no way. I can't do that." And it's astounding though how much things can change. You don't realize, from we're at the lowest point, how much better it can be, how much is possible. And we get all this competitive reality where we're comparing ourselves to other people. Well, look at where that person is. They got that far, and I'm this age, and I'm nowhere.
It's not a race.
Yeah, that needs to go away. And it's just astounding. There's the things that are possible. And one of the other examples I wanted to mention was like I take like the example of toxic masculinity, but also loneliness is Travis Bickle in Taxi Driver. You know what the movie Taxi Driver with Robert De Niro? And there's a scene in that he's like he wants to fall in love with this woman, and he goes and he tries to approach her. And this I've understand this feeling too because when you've raised in that situation where you don't have a healthy, compassionate relationship to model, you kinda get an idea of it elsewhere, but you know also that you're even though that's what you sincerely want, you're kind of faking it. You have to build a prosthetic, like, you're to replace the development that you weren't allowed to go through. So it's like, this doesn't seem sincere. So I'd be really nervous, like, try to talk to somebody, and it's like, I just want that connection, but then you come across as odd.
Oh.
Yeah, and then it's so, like, in that film, he like, "Can you wanna go to a date?" And she's like, "Yeah," and then he takes her to a pornographic movie and it's
Oh,
just
I've
like
seen that
and she's
before.
just like, "Why?" And he's just like, "Well, this is what people do." And that's you're always afraid of things like this because it's like you kinda have this framework for what compassionate behavior would be. You're trying to do it, but you're missing the critical steps. And then what happens is you get ghosted, right?
Yep.
And so and it's like there's no room for growth there. You're like, I did something wrong, but I don't know what it was. And it's like at the same time as I say all this, it's like everybody protect yourself first, second, and third. And I've ghosted a lot of people too. But I also just I think about this a lot, like, what mechanism is there for developing people? If we ghost them, we don't have the opportunity to explain them, and just understanding where people are mentally, and it empowers us to handle them if we know, like, the contorted mindset they have. So that's why I explore that a lot, but yeah, it's a challenge. This is a challenging subject.
Yeah. Yanni says, "This is why I hurt for men under 25. They've been brainwashed
Oh,
by the
yeah.
manosphere since they were little." Um, Fun fact, I actually in a weird way, I was, like, one of the first generations of people to actually experience that full impact of, the
Ugh.
online world because, well, when I was finally allowed to have the internet, I kinda, like, went nuts on it, and I was not a very popular kid in high school and middle school. Well, I didn't have internet back in middle school for most of it, but no, I had it in 8th grade. But, um, one of the things that I noticed is that people see stuff online, they see stuff in media, and they have, like, this idea of, "Okay, if I say X, then Y should happen." And they try to get close to
Yeah.
so, like, what I would do is, like, I still have a tendency of doing this with people who I wanna befriend. I'll start, like, giving them things or, like, I'll try to cook for them, and it gets to the
Yeah.
point where I'm, like, borderline trying to, like, shove food down their throat
Yeah.
'cause I'm like, "Praise me! This is me wanting to be friends. Say things at me." And I don't really know how to make that framework work in most real life situations.
Oh, that's a really interesting topic, and I know that and that's a big issue among men, they just and yeah, just like well, plus because American society is so homophobic, you're just like, "I just want somebody to be buddies with," and it's just like, people are, like, indoctrinated and, like, respond with physical violence just because you're, being nice, and then we always have to remember too, it's like sometimes people just it's not because they don't like you or they don't have a connection. They're just got so much going on in their lives. Like they're working so hard. They got so many bills to pay. And it's so it's that imposter syndrome where we always assume the worst case scenario and we run ourselves down. Yeah. Talking all that stuff out is, I worry about, you're making me worry about my kids.
Well, here's the thing, your kids already have a crazy good advantage because they have you as a dad.
I hope so.
Like,
Oh boy.
when it comes to like the whole cult deprogramming thing, and we're starting to see this en masse. Um, People are starting to wake up to the manosphere's lies. The manosphere is now starting to back away from Trump. They're like, wait, we've been duped. No, no, no.
Right.
Y'all knew exactly what this was. You signed up for it and put a nice little heart on the little I in idiot. You know, when you signed your name on the dotted line, put a little heart on top of the idiot thing.
Oh, MJ,
But
that's nice.
that's the thing about cults that most people don't understand. It's so easy to just keep with the program until it's not.
Yeah.
There's usually a moment when
Yeah.
there's something where no matter how much they try to avoid it, they
Yeah.
can't
Yeah.
ignore the consequences or they can't ignore how absolutely fucked it is.
Yeah.
We're
It's the
hitting that.
promise. It's the promise of a reward that'll never come, and I had somebody I write a lot of articles about these things, and somebody commented how I think it was a she. I think she broke off contact with her dad for just being evil, and she said that her brothers on his deathbed, the brothers were sitting around him just begging him. It's like, "You're about to die. Just tell us that you love us. Just tell us you love us." And he refused to do it, even on his deathbed. And it was just sort of like, and she was just like, that's what it is. And these people are so cowardly. They want to make you, it's like, you're only with me because I promised you something, and that's like in the United States, everybody sacrifices their integrity for the promise of becoming a billionaire. Margaret Williams put it that way. We've all made a deal with the devil. What have we gotten? What have you gotten from this thing? Look at all you've given up. We never make that assessment, and yeah, the like people like the current, the orange skid mark in the Oval Office. "Oh, I'm gonna give you these checks. I'm gonna do this. We're winning all these great things." It's never coming. It's never coming. And in the meantime, you're sacrificing your rights and you're sacrificing relationships with your kids and you're sacrificing all these things. And that's the essential deceit. And then people tell us, well, if you call them out on it, you're just making more set in their ways. I disagree with that. I think we got to have more open language, but we are all conditioned. Like, we're not allowed to talk about, look, this is where the child abuse is. Quit blaming innocent
Mhm.
people. Quit blaming immigrants. Quit blaming the transgender community. It's the very people we've given guns to round up, to go out there. Yeah.
Exactly. So you brought in a very good point, which I actually didn't really think that much about. Like in most of these like cult like mentalities and a lot of these systems, particularly in religion and in the far right, we have the women who are pretty much socialized since birth to pretty much just be a slave, for lack of a better term. And women's role in the church, almost every single church I've been into, has always been the backbone, the recruitment, the "oh, bless your heart." I'm so sorry if my southern accent sucks. Bro, I'm from New York, I'm from New Jersey. I don't do the southern accent thing very good. Um,
I'll do it.
okay, try it.
No, I'm not
Do it,
gonna do
do
the
it.
southern one though. Keep going, keep going. I'm not doing it.
Well, they'll be like, "Well, bless your heart, child." I look like I'm about
That
to have a
funsy
speech.
that funny voice too, like, "We're down here in the kitchen, everything's so fine." There we go.
Mhm.
"We're waiting for the boys to come home, and I made a nice pie." Yeah.
Exactly, like, they're the ones who are quite literally the PR department for any church that you go in. They're the recruiters, they're the PR. They're the ones who, you know, "Well, I'll, what is something that Southern people say?
I don't know. I'm like 50 bad options. But I was gonna say that, remember the response to the State of the Union address when she was, like, sitting in the kitchen, remember? And it was, like, a kitchen that nobody had ever used. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And she was like, "Well, that president, he's saying a bunch of lies. He's doing things like he's wasting all of our taxpayer dollars, on those godless heathens that are trying to," and then, oh. I do, yeah, that's my righteous preacher voice. Sometimes I rip, yeah, there it is. Kate Britt. They found what I was talking about, so I got it up.
Mhm.
I provoked the memory.
Decarceration says it's pronounced Chile. Oh. Oh. Okay.
Okay. Oh,
Um,
man.
but, the women are the PR department, but the men are the money and the power, you
Ugh.
know, behind it.
"Forgive my husband, he knows not what he does. I have to wash him every night."
You do that way too well,
Yeah.
dude. Like, that
I'm starting to channel it now. Yeah, I can get going. I can yeah. Oh, man. Wow.
um But yeah, like I was thinking about it, and for a group that holds literally like all the cards in society, it's actually rather shocking how terrified they are.
Oh,
Like,
I'll tell you that one. I'll tell you, I figured it all out because it's their whole ideology is always being the all-time winner, right? And their self-identity. I only win. I only win. And what happens is, if you live with somebody long enough, they're gonna do something dumb, and there are gonna be witnesses. And, like, and it accrues. The debt accrues because 'cause they've seen you do one stupid thing. Okay, I'll let it. It's like, I'm the man, 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 and it's like everything I do is right. And like, yes, honey, you are perfect. You are God's perfect gift to me. Thank you so much. And then he's like, he messes up again and he messes up again and he messes up again. He's like, I'm still perfect. It's like, well, what about those 16 times that you fucked everything up? And now the bank, the business is lost and we're living out on the street. You eventually just see them fail enough times. And eventually, if that man gets to that point where his identity of being superior is threatened, like he has witnesses to his failures, he kills them.
yeah,
He will suppress. And also, these men will prevent their children from developing because they don't want their children to exceed them. This is
mhm,
fundamental. This is the
yeah,
conservative ideology. This is everything that they do because only they can be perfect. Everybody else has to be flawed. Only you make mistakes. Everything they do is perfect. And clever people, curious people are like, this is bullshit, actually. It's like, you keep fucking up. Why don't you just admit you fucked up? And eventually that's what happens. Just admit you fucked up just one time. And they
they can't
won't.
do it.
Yeah. They can't. They can't because that's identity death. They have to kill.
Yeah.
They would rather kill you than admit that they were wrong. They literally would.
Actually, you're correct. The vast majority of family annihilations happen when a man in a red state kills his family. And they usually do it. They usually kill the children first, then the wife.
Yeah.
Often because they feel like the child is a threat, or they feel like the child can't live, without him, or
They've been
something like that.
exposed. Well, it's because they've been exposed as
Yeah,
frauds. And I mean, like the inept pus globule in the Oval Office who can't assemble a two-piece Lego set, and it's like his whole world is about deflecting from his impotence at everything, like inability to do literally one thing. The only thing he's good at is deflecting and blaming everybody else because he literally can't face the fact that he's an abject loser, failure at everything. And I just still don't understand. See, this is the key to dismantle this. All we have to do is expose those groups for being the abject failure. But we are all conditioned not to call them out, to not make the statements, to hold them to account, to say, no, it was you. You were the one who made the mistake. The Republicans are still blaming Democrats. They control every part of our country right now. They're an abject total failure, Everything about their ideology is. But because they want to build themselves up as the uber mention.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, it's interesting that you bring that up because it is a fear rooted in narcissism.
Yeah.
And there's so many of them, and they have this idea that they have to be perfect 24/7 and that they can't,
Yeah.
show any sort of weakness when in reality, them behaving that way is like the weakest, most bitch ass thing I've seen all day.
Yes.
Um,
Well, narcissism is tempting, right? I mean, it's always tempting when you're just like, yeah, I'm perfect all the time. I don't have to recognize any mistake. That in the immediate present, in the eternal present, you're like, yeah, I'm just perfect. I don't have to prove myself. Those kids studying, oh, they're tryhards. I'm already. This is a joke. This class is a joke. Until you get into life to that point where you're just like, "Oh god, I don't have any skills." And then you just keep doubling down, and that's the ingenuity of the corrupt again. You have to start
yeah,
stealing. You have to be, you have to other people are
right.
better than you, you kill them, or you destroy them, or you sabotage them. You hit them in the knee with your figure skating, competition with a bat. And it's just that and we just don't recognize the corruption of conservative ideology. We don't recognize, we don't speak it.
'Cause if you
Yeah.
speak about it, that's when that's when shit hits the fan.
Yeah.
Like,
Mhm.
the other
Yeah.
day, I saw that Elon Musk and one of his, homeboys or butt buddies or whatever they're doing over there, they
He's
were talking about how, uh, introspection causes emotional disorders and therefore should not be done. I'm like, "Oh,
Yeah. That's reveal. It's a reveal. That's how they think. Yeah.
yeah." Like,
They think that's
it's
weakness.
interesting.
Yeah.
They think it's weakness, but I don't even think it's weakness because I think that they are afraid of what they would
Yes.
see if they looked in the mirror. I
Absolutely.
think they're terrified.
If you have to
Uh,
recognize you've hurt people, and it isn't easy, and that's another thing, I came to that realization maybe, like, as late as it could have been, but it's pain. I mean, when you recognize you've hurt people, that causes you pain for the rest of your life. But that pain motivates you to not hurt people ever again, you know? And some people will say, like, my dad would say this to me. He's like, you're demanding I crawl across glass." That's what he said. I'm just trying to set some boundaries so you stop hurting me. You're demanding I crawl across glass." And in his mind, that's what it is, because he has to recognize not just the pain he's inflicting on me, but on all the people earlier in his life. So I don't know what age it is. You can be freed from the cult at age 10, 20, maybe up to 30. By the time you're up to 40 and you've committed all these acts because you don't even perceive a reality beyond your immediate present, and you deny all the pain you cause, at that point, have you accrued so much, karmic debt that you are no longer capable of changing your way? I don't know for sure. It's something I've been thinking about. What do you think?
well, if you really wanna know my religious beliefs on things, so as a as everyone knows, I do work with Egyptian deities, I do work with ancient Egyptian deities, I work with beings of light, and I also work with beings of darkness. And a lot of people are very shocked to find out that I do have a bond with demons. And the thing is that the way I've always seen it, demons are still children of God. And the thing is that for all of the warnings that you see about demons, well, somebody's got to keep Christians in line. Somebody has to be there with the stick being like, hey, you got to give the devil his due. You did all this horrible shit. You think you're going to walk away if you just say, sorry, Sky Daddy? No. That's the way I've always kind of viewed it. I've viewed it as a form of like a karma hammer. But at the same time, I believe that there's something more evil than a demon. I think that there are actions that a person can take that can actually kill an immortal soul. I
Yeah.
look I look at people who are like, in Congress and shit like that, and I noticed that so many of them, the lights are on, but no one's
Yeah.
home. Like there is a void there. I
Mhm.
honestly think that there's a bunch of people who walk around and they don't really have a soul in them because I think they honestly killed themselves
Mhm.
on a spiritual level.
Yeah.
Like,
That's what I was kinda talking about. It gets to a moment where you've stewed in your juices, you've told yourself the same lies so many times, and there's just no working them out of there. I was reading The Demon Haunted World by Carl Sagan the other day, so it's like and it was kinda talking about the way because the definition of demon has kinda changed throughout the years, it's meant different things, but, like,
mhm,
as messengers is kinda, I think, how they so it almost was an interchangeable term with angel
yeah,
in some senses. So that's one of the things where people disregard that. I think, the the vice president made reference to demons lately. I mean, the religious language is becoming more and more infiltrated in this government, especially, but
mhm,
always misapplied in a way that's designed to bring about, justify, and somebody said in there before, yeah, the Sky Daddy told me, like,
yeah,
ways to pass on accountability to other entities. Nobody could have predicted this. It's like we said again and again and again, if you're gonna do this, this would happen. Oh, nobody could. How dare you? When you say that, you make me feel bad about myself. And it's
yeah.
just all these tactics for just deflecting us from having these realizations about where the true rot actually is. There's a lot of unwinding that has to be done there. I'm still doing
Like,
it. I'm still working on it.
that's one thing I've started to notice online that I'm absolutely loving. So, ladies, give me a heart if you've ever had a guy correct the words that you use when you vent about your experiences as a woman. Oh, look at all the hearts going on. How many? Ladies, show me a heart if you've had to deal with a guy being like, "Not all men are like that," or "Don't you think
Uh,
that you're
not
just
all, yeah. Hashtag
generalizing?"
not all. Yeah, yeah,
Or what about, the single moms? They're causing issues too. I see
yeah,
so many hearts. Yes. Well, there's a reason that they're doing that. When you control a person's language and
yeah,
tone, you control the dialogue. Whenever you do even like a counter to that, not all
yep,
men, but enough men. Everybody knows. Here's the thing though, they'll keep saying it because every single time that they yank that little bit of power back to divert
yeah,
you and to talk and to steal the spotlight from you and to push their narrative, they're winning. I've noticed so many more women going, "You know what?
yeah.
Not all men, but I hate all men." Or,
Yeah.
"Not all men, but go fuck yourself."
Eh,
Like,
I get in those fights
beautiful.
too, and I'm like, "Men suck." I'm a man, I could say that because it's not about me, it's about the problem, and it's like other men who see the problem will agree, and you get that all the time, "Don't lump us in." It's like, "It's not about you, it's about this bigger problem." You know, if you're one of the good ones, you will join me in denouncing this evil and not demand an exception for yourself. It's called a thought terminating cliche. Ben Ulancy told me that word where they
I
deflect
love
it with
that.
something that sounds kind of reasonable, but the idea isn't an honest intellectual engagement of your idea. It's
It's bad
designed
taste.
to stumble you and make you talk about something useless. So be aware that that
Exactly.
happens.
Exactly. So, I know, like I know where I lay my blame on people who are born female, uh, in the church, and how I would come at them because I absolutely would, because they have their own fragilities, and the easiest way to, make them shut the fuck up is to call them a cunt. But that's aside from the point. Um, Walter, what would you suggest for people who want to, especially for men who want to confront these fragile little
Yeah.
bitches with penises involved in this fucked up system of control and abuse that we have throughout our country?
Well, what worked for me was getting the hell out of the country for a while and just like being reinforced in South America where they just adopted me. And I'm just like, people can live. It is hard to shake off that conditioning. Like, the world has to be like this. Therefore, everything that is done within this evil reality is acceptable because it's just the way it is. You go live abroad, you're like, people are not, they don't think that. They get along just fine. Breaking up that stuff in your mind is the big part. I mean, the fight happens in your head, giving yourself permission to do that. And I think just that curiosity, learning a foreign language through complete immersion was like a way of rewiring my brain, honestly, because I would go live there and people said that was another time I lost weight because I was trying so hard to think,
Mhm,
but it's like, and then also I would talk to people and I would try to communicate, but I wasn't screwing things up with all my conditioned things that I learned to say and respond. I'm just struggling to talk. So you're able to have a connection on a different kind of level. I had to learn all those things.
mhm,
Yeah, travel, I guess. But then I instantly think of these passport bros who just go abroad to basically rape and leave people. So I
yeah,
mean that's the shadowy evil reflection of what is a good idea to travel, to learn about other cultures, to embrace the people, to treat people with compassion. You can reinvent yourself. And that was another great thing of going abroad. Nobody knows who you are. You don't have to be an asshole.
yeah.
You know, you can choose to be a nice guy. Nobody's watching. Be nice. See what happens. Maybe you'll like it. Maybe good things will happen. So
Yanni says, "And dudes, you're not a good guy if you shut the fuck up when it's one of your boys." Correct. The
yeah,
silence
that's important
is
too.
what
You
allows
gotta
it
get
to
away
happen.
from them. Yeah, you gotta get away from those guys, the toxic group, and whether it's your family, you don't have to talk to them, you know? Your friends from school days. If your life sucks, make some changes, walk away from all that. You don't even know how much they're poisoning you until you're away from it for a while. If it's a good relationship, it'll be there when you come back.
Correct.
Yeah.
And honestly, like, I hang out in a lot of scenes which have a lot of toxic masculinity. I've had to deal with, like, actual, like, gangsters in Newark before, and one thing I've noticed is that the easiest way for all of those guys to get in line really fast is to have one guy just look at them very judgmentally and go, "Dude, what is wrong with you? Why are
Yeah.
you acting like such a twerp?" All of a sudden, you'll see all those guys super, like, very conscientious, very
Oh,
empathetic.
yeah.
It's it's insane how fast they, like, snap to attention, but it has to be done by a male.
I was helping
Um
my daughter's soccer team, and the coach was a woman, but she's just like, "Can you just be there?" It was a co-ed team with boys like 15 or 16. I'm just like, "Sure." And it's just like, "Quiet down." All I did was that. It's like, she's the coach. I don't know anything about soccer, but they're getting noisy. I'm just like, "Stop it." And then, it's like, that's so important. Be an
mhm.
accessory, be helpful, but you don't have to take over. Just support. That is a big difference.
And we've got Assemblywoman Deborah Mazzarelli in the house. Woo!
Woo! Go ahead.
I love seeing people who are active in the political
Yeah.
sphere, doing stuff. But yeah, um, right now, I guess it's about time for us to, you know,
Winder.
wind down. But I did wanna just, give you guys a heads up that there is some good news, about the Duggar case. And the good news is that the case is taking place in Florida, which is now carrying a death penalty
Mm.
for child molesters,
Oh, good.
and
Yeah.
would be
Good.
a life in prison thing for Mr. Joshi.
Good.
So, justice might actually be served.
Well, that's good. But let's just say it's still to pivot to even better news. Let's make it something. And it's a delight to see you again, Ossiana. It's been a while since we've
Always.
chatted, and it's always I've every now and then I'm like, oh, Ossiana, and then I'll like send you a message, and then it's like, oh, our schedules don't line up. So this has been great. I'm glad we got a chance to do this, and I'm just happy to see you happy. You deserve it. So and
Thank
it's just
you.
nice to have it radiate out of you. I just bathe in just the happiness of others, and
I
it
mean
empowers us all.
the guy who I'm seeing right now, he's so magical. Oh my god, I just love him so much.
Y you
Um,
know, oh, that's yeah, fantastic.
yes, and, somebody saying decarceration wants, Blitzo to know that the audience does stand with him.
Yeah, that's good. I wanna say too, I mean, it's just I found happiness when I finally got to that point. I was happy to be by myself, and I think that's a really good goal too. I was just like, "I'm fine. If it this" and
Mhm.
that is a possibility too, and it's like, "Alright, this is what it's gonna be." And then in that time, within a year that I met the person that become my wife, and I think that's just this healthy journey, and like you said, just take your happiness. When I first met my wife and until now, just be smart enough to just take it, like, "Okay, I'm happy, so let's just not question this. Let's just let this last as long as possible." These happy moments, because they're hard to come by, and you earned them. You earn them when you get them. So, I'm
Yeah,
happy for that. So I'm glad we can spend a
like,
positive on that. Take your happiness, ride that happiness wave as long as possible.
riding it.
Alright,
No, but
perfect.
for real, for everyone else who's out there struggling, you can always, hit me up, tap me, whatever. I love to just, show some love to my fans, and even if you're not a fan of me, as long as you're not giving me death threats, I probably won't react too negatively. Um, um, everyone just, you know, Yanni says my DMs are open too. Everyone just take it
Yeah,
one
help each
day at a
other.
time. Things will get better. Every single time that, you help somebody get away from their abusers, be it the Christian
Yeah.
church or be it an actual, abuser, or even if you're the abuser to yourself, you're
Mhm.
helping someone out. I mean, that sounded weird, but you know what I mean. Like, if you're a
Yep.
therapist and you're actually helping them talk it out and parse it out and realize that you're worth loving, that's also a very big deal. Oh, and Elsie says, "Mine too so far." But yeah, um, have a good night.
Thank you, everybody. Love to everybody.
Alright.